to go over this guide to macro counting. This doesn't have to be super complicated, but this guide is going to give you the exact steps and build meals in MyFitnessPal, plan your weeks, and stay consistent without burnout. The first thing we need to figure out is you're going to define your goals. If you are trying to lose body fat, build muscle, or do a body recomp, or just figure out your maintenance calories in general, you need to figure out your path. So what we're going to do first, we're going to go ahead and go to this TDEE calculator, which is your total daily energy expenditure calculator. This is just going to be an estimate. Once you enter in all your information, height, weight, age, and then activity level, if you do know your body fat percentage, you can be off by 5%. And it'll still be a good range for you. But if you do not know, you do not have to enter that in. Choose your activity level of what you're currently doing, how many days a week you plan on exercising. So we're going to go do this moderate exercise. We're going to go ahead and hit calculate. This is just an estimate. This is not exact, so you will have to track and see how your weight is affected by this number, as long as you're tracking accurately. We're going to use these numbers. You can use 30% of these ratios. It's going to be 30% protein, 35% fats, and then 35% carbohydrates. Choosing which phase you plan on doing, either maintenance or body recomp, cutting, or building muscle. So we'll give you an idea of where you should be. You will need a food scale, a bathroom scale, and a tracking app to record your data. Ideally, you want to take progress photos weekly as well to see the changes that happen with your body weekly. We're going to go ahead and go. Once you figure that out, you're going to determine your macros. This is just going to be an example of the numbers we're going to use. So it's going to be like a body recomp. So we're going to do the 220 protein, 260 carbs, 89 fats, and then you are trying to get in 30 to 40 grams daily of fiber, or 25 for the ladies, 25 to 40 grams. Your carbohydrates, you're going to set this in this order: carbohydrates, fats, and then protein. So you make sure you have enough fuel and recover properly, hormone health and recovery, and then proteins will preserve muscle and build it. So once you figure out your macro totals, you're going to multiply everything by 7. There's going to be 2 ways that I'm going to show you how to do this. And then you're going to multiply everything by 7 to figure out your totals for the week. So we're trying to hit these numbers at the end of the week just to see how close we can get. And then for the meals per day, depending on your lifestyle, you're going to choose how many meals per day you're going to be eating. Ideally, your meal framework should be set around 5 or 4 meals. If 5 is too much, you can do 4. But again, it's got to be something sustainable and something you can consistently stick with. Your carbohydrates are going to be prioritized around your workout, pre and post workout. And then for other meals, it's going to be lighter carbs, more protein, more fats, more veggies. If you're prioritizing that pre and post workout meal, it should be around 90 minutes to 2 hours away from when you actually are planning on working out. You don't want to be 30 minutes right before you're about to work out digesting that food. You want to have plenty of time to digest it and use that food or fuel for energy. So once you figure out your framework, your setup, your meal setup, you're going to go ahead and post this information in your tracking app. You're going to do your pre-post workout meals, your breakfast meal, and lunch and dinner. You're going to go ahead and enter that in to see how close you are to your weekly totals or your daily totals. And if you're close to your daily totals, you can do a weekly total as well. But we're trying to get as close to these numbers as possible, the 2750, and be consistent throughout the week. Once you get those numbers, we're always going to be tracking in grams. That way, when you measure it on your food scale, the number that is on the food scale, if you do a sweet potato and it's 250 grams, that's what you're going to enter in your tracking app. Same thing with fats. If you're measuring avocado or your almonds or nuts, you're going to enter in the gram number on your food scale in your tracking app. Fiber will accumulate as you eat throughout the week, and you're going to find that fiber number total once you enter in everything in your tracking app. Proteins, you can do grams if you want to, but you're going to be focusing on the raw weight because after you cook it, it will shrink. So the 4 ounces after it shrinks might be 3 ounces cooked. So it will weigh smaller after you cook it. So we're going to focus on the weight it was before, which is your raw weight. And we're going to focus on the ounces for that. That way you can stay consistent. If you're going to do 6 ounces, 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 4 ounces, you're always going to eat that number. That way you can take the guesswork out of how many ounces you need per meal. So once we get into when you're entering in, you're going to track all your carbs, veggies, and fats first, or you can enter it in by meals. And then you're going to add your protein at each meal as well. Once you get all that information in, you're going to track everything for at least 2 weeks just to get an accurate description of what you're doing. And then you're going to make adjustments accordingly. So how you're going to do that, there's 2 ways to do this. First way, you can enter in all your vegetables and carbohydrates that you're going to eat throughout the week. You can do the weekly total. So the weekly total, this is what I'm going to eat for the week for my veggies. These are my fruits, and then these are going to be the sweet potato, rice, black beans potentially, protein shake, yogurt, how much yogurt I'm going to consume each week. So if I take this 2750 number or 1750 number and I divide it by 7, so that's 250 grams per day that I'm going to eat of sweet potatoes if I wanted to do it that way. Same thing goes with the rice for lunch or dinner for the sweet potatoes, depending on how you're going to adjust your meals accordingly. I know I'm going to have cheese on certain meals, avocado on certain meals, and I'm going to have eggs for a couple days. So you're just going to enter in all this information. Once you enter all that information, you're going to look at the totals. Once you look at the totals, you're going to try to get as close as possible. You're going to get as close as possible to your totals for the week. It's okay if you're off just a little bit, but if you have a huge discrepancy from this protein number or your carbohydrate number, or you're way over on fats, you can make adjustments to get closer to that number. And then the other way to do this will be if you wanted to do it by meals. So you can do it by meals this way. You have your pre-workout meal, and then you can have your lunch, dinner, and then your snack well, that's not right. So you can do this one by meal, and this is a better description. So you can do your pre-workout meal, your post-workout meal, then you have your lunch and dinner, and then you're going to try to get as close to your daily goal as possible. So I'm off just a little bit out at each number, which this is where you want to be your daily goals. There's the 2 ways you can do it. How you're going to enter this in, let's not go to that. This is going to be the tedious part, but you can track specific meals and then save them in your food tracking app. And then that way you won't have to continuously track it. You only have to measure out the weights of each item, like the blackberry, blueberries, when you're making your protein shake or your actual meal. That way you can keep track throughout the week. If you meal prep, you just need to portion out your meals accordingly. That way it'll take the guesswork out. That's why I like to do the weekly totals. That way there's no guesswork in how much I need to eat per meal, or there's no guesswork in whatever I buy. I just need to finish it at the end of the week. And that's going to be a quick guide to how to track your food. You're going to stick to your frameworks. You're going to repeat your meals that you enjoy. Focus on your weekly averages, not daily perfection. And then you're going to make small adjustments every 2 to 3 weeks based on your progress. And again, your progress is you weighing first thing in the morning, keeping track of that, taking progress pictures weekly, like a specific day that you're going to, like on Sundays, you're going to take your progress pictures. And if you want to do measurements, you can do measurements as well, but you need to be consistent throughout the week. There will be fluctuations with your weight based on how much carbs you eat the day before, if you slept well, if you hydrate enough with your water. There's going to be a bunch of different fluctuations with your weight, but the thing that needs to stay consistent is always weighing first thing in the morning or after you use the restroom. That way you can get a baseline of your fluctuations and you'll know potentially what you need to do at the end of the week and see a gradual decline or incline depending on your goal of your weight. I guess that's it. Yep, that should be it. I think I got everything. I hope.